Hey, hey, and welcome back to the Amazon Ad Studio. I'm Dominique Murphy. From coffee to chocolate to the onion. Not a food, though, that we're talking about here. Rising from its humble beginnings as a print newspaper in 1756, The Onion now enjoys a daily readership of 4.3 trillion. No, that was not a stumble. 4.3 trillion, and has grown into the single most powerful and influential organization in human history, or so they say. That's incredible. So joining me now is Jordan LaFleur, the Onion's managing editor, who's going to talk to us through how they have stayed so fresh for 35 years. Jordan, what's the secret?
Oh my gosh. Well, for one, we rely on just an excellent writer's room culture. The people in this room have lived and breathed satire and headline creation for years. The average tenure of an Onion writer is extremely high, and when we get a lot of practice, I guess is the way to say. Yeah, so we're just doing it, we're living it and breathing it every day.
Okay, so you get a lot of questions. Speaking of satire,
Yeah.
so how do you satire in the current era, but is satire still necessary? That's my question to you.
Oh, 100%, unequivocally yes. I mean, we get a lot of questions working for The Onion, oh, the news has gotten so strange. How can you possibly exceed what I'm seeing on the news every day? And I would offer people to think about the fact that, this is not the first period in history that's where we've experienced significant civil strife. These are heady times, of course, and I don't mean to diminish that, but this is not the first time the world has experienced heady times. And satire is as old as those difficult issues. It's been a common response by writers and satirists for centuries. And so I fail to see why there's anything about this current era that makes satire any less relevant than it ever has been.
Yeah. What's your favorite part? I mean, obviously I've worked in media for a while as well, and the managing editor is always the person who's like, cracks the whip, right? Like, you're the person. So I want to know, what is it like working for you? What's your style?
Oh, that's a great question. Honestly, I've come up through The Onion, and so my management style has matured as I've been with the company. So I think, when I first came at The Onion, the culture was kind of more closed, where the respect for the room was so great. I was told as a young social media manager not to speak in the room for the first 2 years that I was a member of that room. But I feel like it's not. The credit doesn't belong to me alone, but under my leadership and my colleagues' leadership, we've really opened that up. We're inviting more perspectives. It's not so top down, and people get to participate way more than they once did.
I love that. Yeah, I just see you, and you had this like fun vibe about you, but I see like a very comedic side to you. So I'm like, I wonder what it would be like. So let's talk more about The Onion. Not all of the content that comes out of The Onion, the coverage, is hard-hitting satire. So how is it that you, within the span of a single day, justify doing headlines like SNAP recipients, okay, for example, now required to show starvation, induced organ failure, and metal fork just on sidewalk? This is like, I'm trying to put it all together, the puzzle, and I'm like, wait, these don't go
a study
together.
in contrast, yes. No, I guess I would just say that, we are satirizing a full media empire, and traditionally a legacy newspaper. So imagine the New York Times and all the resources it has to bear and all the coverage areas they have. So not only are we satirizing, heady news events of the day, but we're also trying to do local coverage. It's why we cover, we have, just like any newspaper or legacy media organization, we cover sports and entertainment and politics. And so we're just trying to offer a fuller breadth of coverage. But it's not just about verticals, it's not just about topic areas. We're also satirizing the various approaches to newsworthiness. So like in the scope of a real newspaper, you'll see some very life-altering, world-changing event right next to a theater opening. And so we want to offer a full breadth to make us more representative of what it is we're trying to satirize.
Got it.
Yeah.
So what keeps you relevant? Obviously, you've been, the Onion has been around for 35 years. You have trillions. You have a lot of readers. Let's put it like that.
Yeah.
Okay, you got a lot of readers. You have loyalty, which is what every brand wants, is that brand loyalty. So what makes you relevant and keeps people coming back for more and more?
Well, I think it's a mix of a few things. I think primarily humor just cuts through the noise in a way that is hard to accomplish with more traditional content. So, if we launch on a new platform, well, for one, we do that a lot. We like to be present on we want to be where the people are, right? So. When we launch on a new platform like Threads, for example, we tend to have really high user acquisition immediately because our content cuts through the noise of traditional media. And so we've found that is not a parlor trick that only worked with generations past. It's continuing to work with current generations. When we launched on TikTok, very fast user acquisition, and it's a whole new generation that gets to enjoy what it is that The Onion does.
So let's dive in more to that. So TikTok, Threads, new platforms, right? So when you do that, how do you, number one, decide to join? And then the follow-up question is, what do you hope to gain?
Right. Well, we like to err on the side of participation. There's just a lot of rewards we found over time to early adoption. It can have a lot of impact on just how quickly we grow. But also, as we attempt to satirize a world-dominating news media empire. Again, we want to be where the people are. And so, honestly, what drives it the most is whether or not we have the capacity to support it from a production standpoint. Threads was real easy because that's just another distribution channel. But something like Vine, we didn't really want to touch because we didn't have a good response to what a traditional news media looked like in 6 seconds. I realize that's now a dated reference, but TikTok was much easier, not only because of the length of the content, but because traditional news media organizations were choosing to join that platform. There's an odd dynamic where, yes, and they conflict, where yes, we want to join a platform early in order to reap the benefits of early adoption, but also by virtue of being a satire of traditional news media, we can't get too far ahead of our target. So we can't join every platform that comes up, but historically we've been pretty wise about picking and choosing.
So I have to ask, I put you on the spot a little?
Absolutely.
What's one of your favorite TikToks?
Oh, we had a good one recently. I mean, this is a sillier one, but we did oh gosh, archaeologists accidentally uncover living man or something like that. And, I mean, that brings to mind a few things, but one is like we love to think of ourselves as the finest satirical news source in the world because we are, but we are simultaneously doing more traditional comedy as well. I'm sure there's a writer in my writer's room who could explain why that headline is perfectly satirical, but in my mind that's a little bit more just absurdist humor. And we allow ourselves to do both, which is kind of a big ask of an audience. Sometimes we disagree internally whether a joke is more satirical or more comedic or an artful blend of the two. And so then we ask our audience in turn to interpret it on their part. And sometimes our audience has different interpretations than we do. But yeah, that was just a silly one that did really, really well on TikTok. I think something like 5.5 million views or something like that. Yeah.
Wow, Jordan, why do you think it was so effective?
Well, honestly, I will be perfectly candid. I think some people were tricked, and now and thought it was real, or at least they were just so startled as like, it appears real, but this can't possibly be true. And particularly within the context of a TikTok feed, it can be a little jarring to come across our content. I want to clarify though that the Onion, while it can be fun and funny to trick people, it is absolutely 100% not our aim. Like in an ideal world, people see our content, understand the point that we're trying to make, view it as satire and appreciate it as satire. But every once in a while we trick people and it can be kind of entertaining.
Got it.
Yeah.
So personal question for you and your whole team. How do you keep your ideas fresh? Because let's face it, in any career, any industry that you're in, if you're especially comedy, because it has to be fresh, it's got to be witty, it's got to have that true essence to it. But if you're writing this content every day, day in, day out, year 1, year 2, year 3, how do you keep your team fresh, coming up with new ideas that are funny and relevant?
Yeah, I mean, you've really honed in there. That is the most difficult part of the job, and it can feel Sisyphean to keep rolling the rock up the hill, but it is just sheer volume, the number of attempts. So, we produce hundreds of headlines per week and winnow them down to the 60 or so that you see on our site, and it is just pure repetition and volume, and our process incorporates the full writer's room to really pull apart ideas. So, a writer might pitch a headline that is 75% of the way there, and if we publish it as is, you could accuse us of maybe not being so fresh. Oh, like I've seen a similar take elsewhere. A friend of mine already tweeted something to that effect. But when you have 10 writers, trained satirists, all working together collectively, we jettison the stuff that's not fresh and really hone in on takes that are unique, pointed, and satirically rich.
What does the office look like? Do you have I just imagine people on bean bags, vibing. What? How do you get all these juices flowing?
A 35-year-old publication. I think that the vibe you're thinking of was absolutely 100% true in the Madison days and maybe even the New York days. And in one place it remains, in our writer's room. Our writer's room is as silly and colorful as you're imagining. It's within the midst of a more contemporary office, but we've managed to retain the silly vibes in the core space where we spend most of our time. And so yeah, we have my favorite little detail that I'll share with you is that, and nothing against the fine folks at Webbys, but we've won so many Webbys that we have distorted and pulled apart Webbys that we've just played around with, that are in shambles. Because once you win 35 to 40 Webbys, each individual one doesn't hold quite the same place in your heart that it once did. But yeah.
So Jordan, what's on the horizon for The Onion? What's next?
Oh, this is something I get to focus on. It's one of my favorite parts of my role. I think one thing we're trying to get accomplished right now is to offer a richer video offering. So we had really honed in on TikTok as a format. I think that has allowed some of our other distribution channels to languish a little bit. So I'm challenging my room to get back into more traditional video types, and which will allow us to leverage our YouTube channel a little bit better, feel a little more native and to our website. And so I think people can look forward to The Onion doubling down on video in a way that will return us to some former glory.
Okay. Would you say the video are the exciting projects, or are there more projects on the horizon as well?
Oh, I think we're really focused on video right now, but there are things, we're trying to, we're talking to our good buddy, Good Representation. We haven't signed anything, so I'm not sure. I'm stumbling because I'm not sure what I'm supposed to reveal. But rest assured, we're trying to expand the empire again to maybe TV and books. So we're trying to dominate the full media empire.
That's fabulous.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this, Jordan. So we look at the future, right? 35 years already. The Onion's been since its inception. Since its inception, that's a lot to say. So 35 years from now, if you had a crystal ball and you were like, okay, let's double our longevity, where do you even begin to imagine? I'm not talking a year or two or 5, 35 years from now. Look where The Onion has come from to where it is now. What's the ultimate Again, it's hard to even think 35 days ahead, let alone 35 years. But what are your thoughts on that?
Oh man, that's a big one.
We're going to hold you to it too.
No, I think we are more effective satirically when we have our fingers in a lot of pies. Maybe an odd wording, but I want to be back in film. I want to be back on TV. I want to have books. I want our presence to be inescapable. So 35 years from now, I hope it's difficult to walk down the street without confronting the Onion in the real world in some way. And so yeah, the best way to satirize a all-encompassing media empire is to be all-encompassing. Yeah. So yeah, that's the goal.
I get it.
Yeah.
Jordan, anything else you want to add I did not ask?
Oh, I don't know that anything leaps to mind. It's been great to talk to you today.
Likewise.
Yeah.
Well, Jordan LaFleur, managing editor of The Onion, so great to have you here.
Yes, thanks so much.
We'll have to do it again soon.
Yes, thank you.
All right. Thank you, Jordan.